So George, why don't you tell us a little bit more about what you actually do in the schools to help promote peace to kids?
Well, you know, that I want to come back to a point you just made.
Okay.
About dealing with grief. And one of the most horrific things in our history was the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And the Japanese people floated candles in the river to commemorate in memory of those folks and those bodies that floated in that river. And that's become a tradition within the peace movement. And one of the things that I would invite everyone to is we do something out of Peace Action Wisconsin called Lanterns for Peace. And it's August 9th, and it's Pierre Marquette Park. And it's a world event. But the significant thing within the realm of peace is that more than 500 people make Japanese-style floating lanterns. We bring all the materials, and you make and decorate your own lantern. And then we have a procession to the Milwaukee River. Light the candles, put them in the river. And if there's ever a moment that you feel such a peace and in unity with hundreds of people and looking at hundreds of glowing lanterns in the river, it's something special. And so that's coming up August 9th. I just wanted to mention that.
That's wonderful. Where on the Milwaukee River do you
Pierre
meet?
Marquette Park.
Okay.
Pierre Marquette Park, down on 4th and State.
Great.
Yeah. 3rd and State, Old World 3rd Street. But in terms of working with children, you know, that's one of the energizers for me. And going to all kinds of schools, grade schools, kindergartens, high schools, and going to schools that serve special needs in terms of children with disabilities and mental illness. And I'm often invited to talk about peace because of my experience in terms of Dr. Martin Luther King. I was 16 and 10 feet away from him when he gave his I Have a Dream speech. So that puts me on a level, even with a kid in kindergarten who doesn't know much and saw that picture. And I can say, there he was and there I was. And we can talk about peace and we can talk about violence, you know. And I'll tell you, on those visits, either before or as a part of or afterwards, there's always art. There's always self-expression. You know, one school I visited recently, they made posters, they made flags, they had a peace parade before the panel to discuss. Another school I visited, Fratney School, the 4th grade, put up a website, Kids Against War, but we did a videotape of a discussion with them about peace to go on their website.
That's fabulous.
Oh yeah, and then almost always I get these gifts that come, you know, and a teacher will drop by the Peace Center and he'll be 30 drawings that kids did that expressed what they felt about peace. And so that art expression is such a natural thing. And out of Peace Action Wisconsin, and as we talk about art and peace, I realize that in our own Peace Center, which is at 1001 East Keefe, we've oftentimes entertained on gallery night and had art exhibits by members like Tony Wuzalaki or Sue Ruggles in terms of photography, but an actual gallery night visit within the Peace Center, which is so good. And there's one project that I think is so outstanding, and we did this with my friend Barbara Lee in Milwaukee Public Theater, and the artist Marina Lee, and it was a joint project, and we created a 16-foot puppet, a bird of hope.
Wow.
And Marina Lee is just a wonderful artist, you know, and this the color, it's magnificent. But the detail was done by children in terms of the coloring and the decoration and the design of different aspects. And to me, the most important aspect is that it's interactive. This is a 16-foot puppet with wings spread out. And it's not as much designed in terms of a peace dove, but more a thunderbird. You know, something Native American and traditional and looking good and strong and beautiful. But during events, people fill out a ribbon, and they write on that ribbon what peace means to them, or how they want the world to be. And then that ribbon is added to the bird's feathers and becomes a part of the bird. So that's a project that we're able to bring out and through our collaboration within the art community, and it's a good one.
How do we implement all this into our community? We talk about post-traumatic stress disorder, which is, to me, is happening in our community every day. We have children that live in violence. They live in a war zone. They're expected to go to school and produce. They have loved ones that die every day. I mean, these are problems that happen the mental illness that's within the community, how do we implement art as a form of healing to help people get through, especially sometimes too if you don't know that you're having a mental health crisis.
Precisely.
Well, and ignorance is one of the worst problems, but I will say that art you don't need anybody else to accomplish it. Go to the drugstore and get some oil pastels and a sketchbook. It might cost you $6 total, maybe $4, depending on what supplies you get. And you can just doodle on your on the sketch pad, and just keep choosing different colors. Close your eyes. Don't look at what you're doing. Just sketch, and then whenever you stop, and let your spirit tell you when you're going to stop. Look at what you have created on the piece of paper, and I guarantee you, you're going to find things. You're going to find numbers. You're going to find letters. You might find a dog or a bird or some fantastic animal that you've never seen before. And then you have an opportunity to choose your colors and develop these into paintings, if you will.
Yep.
And also there's writing, Brenda, and I hope that people in the prison are given paper or journal kind of thing so you can express your feelings. Every night before I go to sleep, if I'm wound up about something, I write about it in my journal, and I empty whatever that angst or excitement or whatever it is that's stirring me up. I get rid of it on paper. And I think that that's a tool that we all can use. And we don't need anybody else to help us do that.
Yeah. And I think, Patricia, what you're speaking of there, that outlet for expression is so vital when we're dealing with folks who are experiencing mental health concerns. And the arts are probably one of the best ways to be able to express yourself, especially when you're dealing with the nonverbal aspect of it, because so often it's very difficult to put it into words what you're feeling. And you know, for you, it was fabulous that you were able to express in poetry. But initially, many times, folks who are expressing or affected by a mental illness are not able to put it into words. In which case, we can, like Willie said, use the arts to express that. Perhaps because they weren't able to express it verbally, they're able to pour their feelings out onto a canvas, or in my case as a music therapist, they're able to sing their hearts out, choosing a song that has the lyrics that matches their mood, or creating their own lyrics based upon how they're feeling, because they're able to sing about it instead of talking about it. And that's a fabulous thing about the arts. And if I may just say one brief thing about kind of the science behind that and why that works, is that music in particular, and I don't know the research behind art, but I'm guessing it's the same, just because of observing the same responses. When music is present in the environment, it has a totally different effect on the brain and the body. Everything we experience in our lives is processed in one specific area of the brain. We've got the visual cortex and the emotion area with the limbic system, and you've got the motor cortex. Well, we know from science is that music is actually processed in the entire brain simultaneously.
So the right and the left work together.
All together, but even more fantastic, we talked about stress and anxiety and the issues you deal with the war or with, I'm feeling crazy. You know, someone who's starting to experience some mental health situations, they don't know what to do or how to express it. And stress starts coming through the roof. Well, when music is present, when music is first processed through the ears, through the auditory cortex, it doesn't go to our brain first, it actually goes to the kidneys first and stops the production of cortisol.
Wow.
Which is stress.
Thank you, John.
That's kind of what's cool about how we can all access the arts to make a difference in folks' lives.
And I agree with you, but I think the problem is access.
Yeah.
The problem is access, the
Exactly.
problem is funding.
Money is the biggest.
How can we talk about the needs of children in our community as we cut art teachers out of the
Right.
public schools?
Exactly.
You know, and if I might, you know, and that can go on in a lot of ways. And we talked about the difference of instruction versus therapy. Again, all
You got it.
human needs funding. And when we spend so much on war versus what needs to be done right in here in our community with our own relatives, you know, with returning veterans, with children in our schools. And those areas, and we can talk about what happened this year, but as far as I'm concerned, those cuts have been happening for decades.